Hello there, welcome back to my channel, Crafty Concepts with Erin. I have a double page scrapbook layout for you today featuring this very fun travel collection from close to my heart. It's called Are We There Yet? Now I have already created several layouts. I think this will be my fifth one here on my channel, so I will drop those all into a playlist. And if you're looking for more travel inspiration or just ways to use this paper pack or just scrapbooking in general, you're going to want to check those videos out. So I'll give you a quick look at the paper. They're both all of them are double-sided, but I love this one with the geotags. I've got this really happy bright yellow. There's this one here with a more muted background in mink with these really cool like little sketchy drawings of historical. There's the Roman Colosseum, Tower of Pisa, the Statue of Liberty, Great Wall of China, Big Ben, all sorts of really cool places. And then there's stamps to go with those as well. And then suitcases. We have a really beautiful map paper, and then of course passport. So I love this collection, and it's really perfect for travel photos. I have several photos. I'm still working in my Italy album. We took a trip last summer and I've been using this collection primarily to scrapbook those, but I have three 3x4 photos, and we took a little ferry boat over from Venice to Burano, and it's famous for these brightly colored buildings. So I've got lots of shots of my family and my friends we were with just walking down, and there's the canals, and then of course all of those brightly colored buildings. It was really a cool place to see. So we were there for a very short while, so I don't have a ton of photos, but these ones were the most meaningful for me, so I'm going to be scrapbooking them. And I love the colors. These are printed with my Epson PictureMate 400. I do get asked a lot of questions about what printer I use, and I do have a video detailing that as well. I'll list that in the description box below, but I can tell you I've had it for years and I love it, absolutely love it. The colors are beautiful and the photo paper is good quality, and it's just, I highly recommend it. So let me clear these up here and we'll grab the Versamats. Again, this is a double page layout, so I'm going to bring in both of these. This helps me kind of keep things in frame for you, and then it's handy in lining up both sides. Now I am scrap lifting myself. It's a layout I did quite some time ago, and I really like it, and I think it's going to work well for this layout. So I am going to layer up several papers. I've already got them all cut. This is going to be my background. I'm going to create a frame style layout. I have 2 sheets of white daisy that I have trimmed down to 11¼ by 11½, and these are going to sit in the middle here just like this. So when they're together in the album, it'll look like one continuous piece. And I did cut sapphire to mat that. So this is a 1/8 of an inch bigger, and that is going to give a really nice separation between the white and the busier background paper. Do you see what a big difference that makes between the two sides? Now I really love this passport paper, and I do not want to waste all of the pretty pattern paper that is behind these, so I am going to gut those so I can use, that'll give me a really big section to use on another project. Typically I would just gut the center, but since these go all the way, I really only need 3 sides, and I'm going to cut it at about, I'm going to get 1¼ inch in all the way around to give me enough real estate to adhere this piece down to. So you do have to have a rail trimmer for this to work. It'd be very challenging to do it with a guillotine style trimmer. So I'm just lining that up at 1¼ inches in from the edge, and then I'm cutting and stopping 1¼ inches from the bottom, and then I can rotate that and then cut down, stopping 1/4 inch, and then again on my 3rd side here. If you wanted to just gut the middle, you would do the exact same thing, you just wouldn't run it all the way to the end. And now I have that nice piece for another project. So there isn't much stability to this piece, so my Versamat's going to come in handy making sure those are lined up, but I do need to secure it to the Versamat so it's not shifting around. Those are some removable glue dots. You can use washi tape or, just a little bit of tape runner, and then rub that off of your mat when you're done with a rub and remove eraser. I'm only applying adhesive to the outside edge, and then I will repeat the same with the white daisy. Technically, you could gut the sapphire blue cardstock as well if you wanted to do that. I have all of my base adhered, and now I can bring in this layer. As I mentioned, I am scrap lifting myself, so I knew exactly what to cut my papers. This is 9 1/4 by 10 inches wide. And we're going to place that right in the center. I want it to look like it's continuing across, but because the way you'll see here in a moment, I have a different pattern paper in the center, I only needed a couple strips, and this was a leftover piece, so I just cut that in half, and we'll put it on the top and the bottom here. And a little tip, make sure if you can, sometimes when we have scraps or leftovers, it doesn't always work out, but try to get your patterns running the same direction. So my arrows are running up and down here, and to carry that look over, I chose a piece of paper that would work and allow those to go the same direction. Now I have the geotag page. This one is 10 1/2 by 7. That's going to sit right in the middle here. And on my original layout, this ran to the 7 or the 10 1/2. But again, this was a scrap, so I'm just going to go with it, and I'm totally fine with it. I think it works with the design quite well. This piece was trimmed off of this one, so to continue that onto the left-hand side, I will just use the measurements on my Versamat, making sure those are lined up. And I use a post-pound album, so that puts my layouts really close together when you're looking at it, so it helps just kind of bring the pages together and have them connected. I was super happy that this yellow works so well to complement the photos. There's a yellow building here, and there's one there, and they've got the rule of threes, right? There's the 3 yellow buildings. But this town of Burano is all about the color. That's what it's known for. That's why you go see it. So I thought it was just perfect to have a paper pack that captures the feel of all of that color. So these two are going to go on this side. Now these are not quite a 4x6. Including the white border, they are 5 1/4 by 4. Dave came through here earlier and stepped on that, so there's a nice little Dave imprint. But I decided to put these photos in this orientation because, and you could reverse them, but it's just kind of the little detail. They are walking on an angle that way, so I thought it'd be nicer to have that more towards the inside of the layout, and my son and his girlfriend are looking into the layout this way, so that's kind of why I decided on those photos there. And then these ones are pretty much, we're all looking straight ahead except for my youngest, who is angled in, so I'm going to have that on the outside so he's looking into the layout there. And these are the 3 photos I want on top. I do have a few others I'm going to add in 3x4 flip flaps. So these are 3x4 photos. I have this photo here that actually has the town and the, where we were. So I thought that was fun. And then these are my family and friends in the shot as well, just kind of walking into the town. So that's going to go underneath a flip flap. My plan is to tuck embellishments up top here, so I don't like it when I'm tucking embellishments behind my photos when you can see them in between the photos. It's just kind of one of those little things that I don't think it looks quite, it's not finished. So I'm going to mat these on another piece of paper. I have selected a sheet of melon cardstock. Papaya is actually the color with this paper pack, but I think the melon goes quite nicely. So you want this just big enough to mat your 3x4 photos. And again, anything I tuck behind these is now going to be hidden and not show in between the photos. Hopefully that makes sense. And that's going to help them just kind of pop off of that busier pattern in the background. Now we're pretty much ready to bring in the title and embellishing. And so I'm thinking title up here, maybe some journaling here and some embellishments in each of those areas. And then up in this area, I still have a whole sticker sheet. I bought a workshop of the Are We There Yet? And then I bought an additional paper pack and sticker sheet because I have so many photos from this 3-week trip. And I don't have to have every layout in my trip album be the exact same paper collection because some of the excursions we were on had a very different feel. Sometime we were in the city, sometimes we were in the mountains, so they don't have to be all matchy-matchy, but it is kind of nice to carry colors and patterns and themes throughout your layout. So this is the Are We There Yet scrapbooking stamp, and there's like a little passport, camera, suitcase, some cute little tags, Our Getaway, that makes a great title or subtitle. And then this one came with the Are We There Yet card making workshop. If you guys caught my earlier videos, you know I pretty much bought this for the stitch tags, and they're super cute. I've already used them a ton. And then this one here, the Are We There Yet borders, and there's some great borders on here you can use for all sorts of different layouts, not just travel. And I did get the thin cuts with all of these, so I'll be using these for sure. For my title, I think I'm going to use the Anthem alphabet, and the reason why I want to use this is, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I love little swoopy banner elements. Well, when you're walking up and down the streets here in Burano, you probably can't see it, but all of the doors have these brightly colored fabric drapes hanging over the door. That's because they don't have, or this is what I was told, they don't have, you know, air conditioning and things like that here. They leave their doors and windows open to let that, you know, breeze come through off of the ocean and cool down their houses. But they don't want tourists looking into their homes, so they all have these decorative pieces of fabric hanging. So these kind of reminded me of that, and I'm going to use these to stamp my title. So Burano has 6 letters, so I'm going to cut 6 of these from Melon, and I'm going to use these two because they look more, I mean, you could mix them up and use the rounded ones as well, but I thought it'd be fun to rotate these two dies. Since I used Melon for this photo mat, I will use Melon and cut 6 of these. I'll be right back. You know, I kind of had a thought as I was die cutting these. I'm thinking Glacier is a color in this paper collection, and I'm thinking that might look better against the yellow. So I went ahead and cut a bunch of the Glacier colored tags, and we'll try those instead. So I'm going to stamp my letters on here, but I just want to kind of swoop those. And since I chose 2 different little banners, I'm going to rotate them across the top. And I'll worry about lining these up, of course, as I actually adhere them down. So basically, and you know what? That building right there, it does really complement that. And I think it looks better against the yellow. So just personal preference, but that's what's fun about having these dies. We can change them out, right? And I'll just throw these back into the envelope, and I'm sure there'll come a time when I need them in Melon, and if not, that's okay. No, it's just a tiny bit of paper. Since I already have both of my Versamats in use, I'm just going to use the little foam insert. All of Close to My Heart stamps come with this foam. Not only does it protect your stamp, but it's great to stamp on. I know a lot of people think that you want a hard surface, but there's tiny little imperfections in your tabletop that will transfer up to your stamped image. Now this is a brand new, I've never used it before. So what you want to do, let me grab a block. For those of you that are new to stamping, you want a block that is pretty close in size to the actual stamp. You don't want a big giant block like this one because it's very easy to get ink all over the place, and just this gives you a little bit more control. Now when stamps are brand new, they kind of have this little shiny coating from the factory. Rub it with an eraser or just rub it on your arm and it will take up the ink much better. Make sure you don't have any air bubbles. Sometimes when you put them on the acrylic block, you'll get little bubbles underneath there. That can mess with your stamped image as well. And then of course, grab some scratch paper and practice stamping on your scratch paper before you stamp on your projects. Now, if you mess up one of your little banners, it's not a big deal to recut one, but if you're stamping directly on your layout, that can be a little bit more tricky. So that's already stamping beautifully, so we're ready to go. Here's another little tip for you as well. Whatever it is you're trying to stamp out, write the word on a post-it note and put it off to the side so you don't misspell it, because I've definitely done that before as well. I'll go ahead and get the rest of these stamped off camera. I always keep my little stamp chamois off to the side. That way I can clean as I go. and keep things tidy because I actually have a very small craft space. Well, I mean, I guess it's all relative. If you're working at the kitchen table, that might be an even smaller craft space, but yeah, things get lost very, very quickly. So I try to just tidy as I go. So again, take your stamp off and then pick it up with your block. I'll just do one more and then I'll get the rest off camera for you so you don't have to watch the entire thing. Stamp it on a piece of practice. And this is archival black. This is actually the richest, deepest black, and I highly recommend this one for scrapbooking. And then there's several black inks, so it can get confusing, but this is what I use in my photo albums. Unless I'm coloring with my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers, then I will use intense black ink. One thing I do want to point out is I am trying to get the same distance from the top. So that might be easiest to line up all of your little banners so that as you're stamping, you can, get that same spacing, so to speak, on the top of your little banner tags here. Aren't these fun? I love the stitching detail. And then this one with the little tiny holes in the bottom, so cute. Little details like that add a lot to the design. We have our last letter here. I recently was asked how I get such crisp, impressions, and, using the foam underneath, doing those tips of rubbing the stamp on your arm and practicing on scratch paper are all very helpful. And these are smaller stamps. If you have a very large stamp with a lot of surface area, it becomes more of a challenge to get a even impression. And you'll also notice I do let it soak into the paper for a bit before I pull that stamp off of my paper. So anyway, if you do have a very large stamp, I highly recommend a stamp positioner. They, allow you to stamp an image multiple times and it keeps it lined up so you can really get good coverage. But these tiny little stamps, it's easier to just grab a block and stamp them by hand like I'm doing here. Okay, so we have all of our cute little banner flags here. And it's, someone else looking at the layout might not make the connection between these looking like the pieces of fabric over the doors. But to me, it does, and it's part of telling the story, which is always kind of nice when your embellishments and elements can help tie in the details. Look at that. Now I'm misspelling it here on my thing. When I pay attention, sometimes you notice you switch the letters around after you, glued everything down. That's typically like when I post something, I'll notice any misspellings after I hit send. Just always seems to be the way. Typically, I would kind of start my I'd put my title here, but I still want to use the banner element, but it leaves this kind of awkward spot right here. And it's okay. It doesn't have to have something there, but I want to try and fill a decorative element in here. And then I was at my sister-in-law's house and we cut a bunch of these on our Cricut and stamped them just to have these journaling blocks handy. This is from an old stamp set. I will leave that in the description box below. It's no longer available, but maybe you have it. And then you cut it out on the Cricut. It was an art philosophy collection, if my memory serves me right. So I'm going to have the journaling there, and I love that it's the same size as the photo. That's just very pleasing to the eye. And then we can work on the embellishments up here. So I have these adorable suitcases. I've just been cutting them off the carrier sheet, but they're actually like little adhesive backed rubber shapes. So I have some of those. And then there's a camera and the little travel guide, and these go nicely. I think I'm going to put that. There's some open space in the photo here, and then maybe the camera here. I do want to bring in more of the glacier color to this side because we added so much of it over there. There's a little sticker that says photo op from the coordinating sticker sheet. So that'll help bring in some of that glacier color. I'm just going to layer that right there. So things like photo op and the camera, those go with pretty much any scrapbook layout. The camera's a little bit lost on the dark background. I'm wondering if I bring in some white. So I have just a little scrap of white that we can kind of experiment here and see how that would look. I always like to, you guys know me and my tags. But yeah, see that? That's going to make a big difference behind that camera. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I have my little tabs and tags. That's going to fit just right. And I'll go cut that and I'll be right back. You can never have too many tags. Did you guys catch the Creative Design Team celebration event over on Facebook? If not, I will leave that listed in the description box below. It's a free event and each of the Creative Design Team members taught a class. Totally, you know, we got to pick our topics. I chose embellishing. So I shared a lot of kind of a deep dive into embellishing, even more than I do here on my YouTube videos. But yeah, check it out because you can catch the replay and there were some really cool ideas. And then we had a sketch challenge each day and it's so fun to see all the different takes on those sketches. So you definitely want to check that out. I am liking that. Let's bring in a little bit of that this is papaya because this is the color that came with the collection. So we put a little suitcase maybe right up top there. That's cute. I like it. I don't have a ton to say on the journaling. This was a quick little day excursion. So I'm going to cover up the bottom of this. I want my suitcase handle hanging the right way. I've got a couple suitcases and then let me check out my stamps here too. So I was thinking about maybe one of these small icons here. If you caught my first videos, you know I stamped a whole bunch and then just ended up putting them in I switched colors. So these were extra. And it comes as one long border like this. So you can stamp it all at once and make all of these great borders. And there's the coordinating dies to cut that out. So you get that really nice finished rounded edge. But then I've been using them kind of individually too, and just using kind of the little bits and pieces. So since this globe's kind of hanging out solo, let's try that one. That's pretty cute. I think that'll work. I like it. So I've just been kind of brainstorming about this area. This is a pattern paper from the current Mix-In paper collection. And I threw it in with this because it goes so beautifully. And I love stripe paper. But you know what? I feel like that's too many patterns. It's too much. So I have a couple tags here. So we can try layering those just out the side to see how that looks. That's cute. That might work. You know what it needs? It needs a little bit of this blue color. What if we just try? Yeah, I think that's going to be a nice balance. Let's make this piece of cardstock more interesting here and just cut a little dovetail in it and see how that looks. This is why I always save my scraps. You never know when you just need a little something something. So we have that. We could still bring in some of this melon color. And what if we just did a little strip of that pattern paper? That could work. Tuck that underneath there. You know what? There's a sticker I'm looking at on the sticker sheet over here. That's a little luggage tag. That might be more interesting. Let's see what that looks like. Tuck that under there. Well, oftentimes embellishing is just trial and error. Tuck it under there, see what it looks like, stand back and, you know, try something else if it's just not quite right. I do like that. I like that a lot better than this plain tag here. I mean, if you didn't have that, you could still maybe stamp a little something on there, but I think this looks pretty good. I'm actually going to cut off the bottom because I could definitely use that on something else. I removed the adhesive off my stickers so I can move them around just by rubbing them on your arm, or you can use your anti-static powder tool as well for embossing, and that'll help take the adhesive off. So I will get these situated, but yeah, I think that looks pretty cute. What do you guys think? Just to bring in a little bit more of that glacier, I grabbed the scallop die here, which cuts out, you can stamp these little, you know, decorative borders, but you can just use the scallop die also. Now I could have just done one continuous piece and done partial die cutting, hanging that off of my plate, so I could have kept it going, but that's okay. This was easier. I cut two pieces at once, and you can always line them up and no one's going to see where they meet. So I'm just going to kind of see if I even like this. And it's just kind of a decorative little element here. You can bring in more of the glacier color. I'll get them lined up. I think that's cute. It's kind of wonky, but when I get it glued down, it'll be straight. I like it. It's a subtle detail, but it just again brings in that glacier from the other side. So none of this is adhered down except for my papers. So I'm going to pause the camera and get those adhered down, and then I'll work on my journaling. And I do want to run some twine through the holes in the banner up here. I found this little Papaya geotag on the sticker sheet, and this twine is from my stash. So I'm going to loop a little bit of this through the tag and just run it kind of looped back over itself, and then tie it into a little bow here. I'm not very good at this. My bows always turn out upside down, but that's okay. It works. And then you can just kind of pull the tails and adjust that to be the appropriate size. I'm going to use this same twine to kind of make the banner look like it's hung from string. There's these little holes in the top, and if you didn't want to do this, you could definitely use like tiny little enamel dots on each of those holes to make it look like they were tacked up into place, or even like liquid pearls would work as well. So I'm just going to run this through, and then I might tie a bow on the end. I'm not sure. I'm actually going to cut that and knot it and then kind of fake tie a bow. I don't know if I'm going to keep that. We'll come back to that. So I wanted to bring a little bit more glacier down to this area. I cut a circle. That kind of looks random. I'm going to tuck it underneath my journaling block just for a little pop of color, kind of like a little tab sticking out the side. I added my journaling off camera and a few enamel dots around the embellishment cluster, and then I decided not to put bows on the twine up top, and then I added a few more enamel dots to this area as well. For still shots of this project, you can find me on Pinterest, Facebook, or Instagram. All of my social media accounts are listed in the description box below, along with everything I used to create this layout. Here's the playlist where you can catch the rest of the Are We There Yet collection layouts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!